Whether you drive a car, need a car, or just occasionally bum a ride with friends, you've come to the right place.
Join the editors of Consumer Guide Automotive as they break down everything that's going on in the auto world.
New car reviews,
Shopping tips,
driving green,
electric cars,
classic cars,
and plenty of great guests.
This is the Consumer Guide Car Stuff Podcast.
Here's your host, Tom Appel.
All right, this is the Consumer Guide Car Stuff Podcast, and I am Tom Appel, publisher of Consumer Guide Automotive. Hey, thanks for joining us today. When you get a chance, please check us out at consumerguide.com. While you're there, check out our 2021 Best Buy picks. This list is an excellent starting place if you're going shopping for a new car or truck. You also want to check out our blog for complete reviews of all the vehicles we're driving here at Consumer Guide and all sorts of other car-related fun. And you can catch up on back episodes of the podcast right there on our homepage. All right, let's see who's online with us today. She is the managing editor of Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk, and her freelance work can be found all over the internet. Hey, Jill Simonello.
Hey, Tom Appel.
How you doing?
I'm good. I am in Chicago now this week.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm in Chicago, too. I was gone yesterday. Drove my kid back to school, so.
Okay.
We're back here.
How did that go?
That went good. We took the Jeep Grand Cherokee L, which easily held the contents of my daughter's dorm room on the highway. My only complaint about that vehicle, two small complaints. One, fuel economy, but I think everyone expects that when they get a V8 powered crossover. The other is that the sloping roofline means that the rear hatch is a little bit small, and it was hard to load big boxes stacked on top of each other.
Oh. Yeah,
So-
I could see that being a problem to move somebody into college.
But that is a heck of a nice vehicle on the highway.
Yeah. Yeah, I only had it for a short stint. I was at the first look and very much enjoyed it.
Yeah, nice vehicle. Should do well for Jeep. It's very expensive, but Jeep buyers know that. So, Jill, you and I have a couple of corrections to get to in a section of the show we like to call corrections and mea culpas. You want me to go first?
I can go first.
All right, you go first.
I'll go first. I like to get the bad stuff over with. So that's always my mantra.
Just rip off.
Rip off the Band-Aid. I had said that I chose the A6 last week because it was based on the Volkswagen Passat platform, and I have to admit I was looking at old data. It is no longer based on the Passat platform. But I'm still sticking with the A6 as one of my picks of vehicles to die because I think that that size vehicle is redundant and going away. So I'm sticking with it, and I think maybe it'll become electric, and maybe it'll be called like the E6 or something clever like that. So I still think it's going away.
So wait a minute. You think you win then if the A6 becomes the E6?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'll have to talk to the rules administrator, but okay, that sounds fair. Well, last week when Damon and I were talking about the Fiat 500X, we noted that that's the last vehicle available in the U.S. As sold by the Fiat brand. That's technically correct, though. If you go to their webpage, they're still selling year-old Fiat 124 Spiders, the little sports car that's based on the Miata. So it's there on their website, but they're only 2020. So technically, Fiat's selling two vehicles, not one.
Only two.
Yeah. That's
okay. I forgot about the 124 as well. 124, 124.
Everyone has.
Yeah.
All right.
But nobody has forgotten the commercial. Do you remember the commercial?
No, I forgot the commercial.
Oh, the commercial. I was just talking about this the other day. The commercial with the guy and it's called the little blue pill.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay.
All right, he's senior editor here at Consumer Guide, and he's newly certified jazzercise instructor. Hey, Damon Bell.
Do they still have jazzercise studios?
I don't think so.
That's not true. I am not affiliated with jazzercise in any way, but I do have quite the collection of terry cloth headbands and wristbands.
There you go. What about CrossFit Slide or Step? You into any of those?
No. Nope. I did use when I had my knee surgery. I used one of those. Have you seen those? I can't remember what they're called, but it's like a inflatable, like medicine ball inflatable dome that you step up on to kind of get your balance back and therapy for your leg
like
muscles.
the Bosu?
Yes, Bosu. That's what it was. Yeah.
Love the Bosu.
Yeah, and then is it the same? Is the Bosu the thing that you then can flip it over and it becomes like a balance assistance thing? Yeah.
Yeah.
I might have to.
Bosu.
I might have to invest in a Bosu for home use. Actually.
So do you know what Bosu stands for?
No.
Both sides up.
Ah, interesting.
So there you go.
I wonder what a Bosu costs. I'm going to look that up when we're done recording today.
I feel like it's a couple $100s because I know I've put that on my wish list for Christmas a couple years.
And Santa has not come through.
Santa has told me it's too expensive.
Okay. It is kind of pricey. I don't know, $200 for rubber and plastic seems like kind of a lot, but I'm sure it's some sort of industrial medical grade durability, so maybe it's worth
Damon,
it.
we just gave Bosu 90 seconds on the show. I think we have to add that to the metadata for the...
Okay, I will put Bosu in the tags for this episode.
Excellent, all right. Hey, Damon, I took a call from my massage therapist during practice today. What's going on this week?
Now I'm super curious as to what the content of that call was.
Yeah, it's personal.
Okay, all right, say no more. Yes, on today's show we have Sergeant Thomas Mason. He's a supervisor in the Chicago Police Detective Bureau. We had him on the show a while back talking about carjacking. That was episode 73 if you want to look that up. But we've got Sergeant Mason back on the show today to again talk about a car theft issue, and that is key cloning and some of the other more sophisticated electronic ways that thieves can potentially steal your car.
So hot wiring, that's not a thing anymore.
Hot wiring is a thing of the past. I think that only happens in movies.
Gone in 60 seconds or whatever?
Yes, Gone in 60 seconds.
You could still do it in the 80s, because we used to practice doing it. We never stole a car. We just...
Wow.
Of course not. You just practiced.
We just practiced.
Were you successful? Were you successful?
We could start cars without a key, yeah.
Okay. Was it how it's shown in TV shows and stuff, where you're just rubbing two wires together under the dash?
More or less. The easy part, too, was getting into General Motors. I'm going to use body codes just because it's easier, but B and C and body vehicles was just really easy with a Slim Jim in those days. You literally could just take a metal slide, put it down the side window, pull it up, and open the car. It was silly easy to break into a car in the 80s.
When I was in college, I had a 1964 Chevy Impala two-door hardtop, and I once locked myself out of my own car and was able to easily bend a wire coat hanger and slip it between the door glass and the quarter window glass between the weather stripping there and just pull the lock cylinder up with a bent coat hanger. So, yeah, it was embarrassingly easy to break into old cars.
We almost didn't need keys. Speaking of not needing keys, Jaguar not really building a lot of key fobs these days. Why is that, Damon?
Well, they're not, well, because they're not building all that many cars these days.
Oh.
Yeah, and I guess, that's one of the things we wanted to talk about in this first segment is there was a recent automotive news article, and there's been some previous articles where Jaguar, that we've seen where Jaguar is talking about their future product plans. And in a nutshell, their future product plans are pretty radical. They are looking at their projected time frame is by 2025, the year 2025. Although we know that those plans can kind of change a little bit. But right now they are saying by 2025, Jaguar will have dropped all of its internal combustion engine vehicles and pivot to become an all-electric vehicle brand, which is a pretty colossal change.
It is colossal, but the part about this that's, I think, most disturbing, I am looking at a page in Automotive News. This is the August 16 issue where they do their future car thing, and there's a timeline. And this timeline is for Jaguar, Land Rover, Volvo, and Polestar. Polestar being the new performance electric car division of Volvo. And it's chock full of interesting information that's going to happen every year, except for Jaguar, where there are just empty blocks. There are no plans for Jaguar. Half a century or half a decade, nothing will happen at Jaguar. And I'm skeptical about what's going to happen here, because the notion is that all of their gasoline-powered vehicles, which is all of their vehicles except the I-Pace, are eventually going to be phased out during this period, and they're just going to have a whole new lineup of electric vehicles starting in 2025. Does that sound credible?
It sounds pretty optimistic. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like on their plans, they're just going to be maintaining the vehicles that they already have. And they put the kibosh on a couple of vehicles that they were going to bring, and but otherwise they're just going to basically be maintaining until 2025.
And let's talk about what maintaining means, because Jaguar sales are frankly dismal. The first half of this year, when every manufacturer was enjoying COVID-related bounce-back sales numbers, and numbers were up 20, 30, 40, 50% depending on the manufacturer, Jaguar sales were flat. They didn't go up.
Yeah.
And some of these numbers are really sad. And for whatever reason, they can't sell their electric vehicle. At first, Jaguar and Audi both came out with their electric vehicles about the same time. What was it, 2-3 years ago? We have the I-Pace and the e-tron. The e-tron sales have been increasing, and people have been latching onto that vehicle. And Audi's starting to feel like an EV retailer. But at Jaguar, sales are really down. They're actually down by half this year.
Of the I-Pace, yeah, they're EV. They're at this point they're lone EV.
Oh, so I mean that doesn't bode well, because if they can't sell the current EV that they have, and they're going to be an all EV company in the future, that's slightly worrisome. Does that worry you?
It worries me a lot.
Yeah, that's worrisome to me. And one of the other things that is really an eyebrow raiser for me is that by now Jaguar was supposed to have had a second EV, and that is the revamped pure electric version of its XJ large sedan. And as of about a year ago, maybe a little more, that was still in the works and on target to be out by, say, the end of 2020 or early 2021, and they canceled it at the last minute. And that I've seen pictures of a camouflage test mule that looked very far along. Oof. So that means lots of development time and development dollars went into a vehicle that never actually made it to production. So that does not seem like a recipe for success either.
Yeah, we know too that they killed the XE sedan. That was their compact sedan that would have competed with the BMW 3 Series. What was that, a year and a half ago? And the XF, their midsize sedan, was pared down to just a few models and limited powertrain choices, ostensibly or per Jaguar to make things simpler for the consumer, but really it just limited what they offer. Those aren't moving anymore at all. What is it? It's almost 600 units in the first half of the year, which is no sales at all, really, in the greater scheme of things. But it's interesting to sort of consider what happened to Jaguar here. And I have one theory. We can go back 20, 30 years, but we can go back to just when Jaguar started to sell cars under the same roof as Land Rover, at the same time that people started moving away from cars into crossovers. And I think that people still assume that Jaguar sells cars. I don't think they even know what an E-Pace or an F-Pace or an I-Pace is. And they get to the showroom and they see these Land Rovers, and I think that new Range Rover Land Rovers look great. And they're in the same showroom, and they're trucky, and they look like trucks, they look like crossovers and SUVs, and people just move to that side of the showroom. I think that that's a lot of what's happening right now.
Yeah, that Jaguar is kind of paying the price for Land Rover's success.
To a great extent, I think so.
Yeah.
And as you and I noted yesterday in an off-air conversation, Damon, you can't really make a Jaguar look off-roady. I mean, how far can you go from the vehicle's core mission?
The other thing I think about Jaguar too, historically Jaguar has had this classic old world British, you think of the classic E-Type and like I sort of think just classic British, elbow patches on a sport coats, tweedy, classic attitude that it's attractive in its own way, but kind of updating that toward a new age, technology forward brand, it seems like that's a tougher pivot to make than say an Audi or a BMW as a brand.
Yeah, we talked too, Damon, and you and I talked a little bit about the S-Type, which was a very heritage-driven design for Jaguar. It looked like a Jaguar. It had the grille, it had the pronounced round headlights, it had the curvy body. That was on sale between 1999 and 2007, and people didn't want that vehicle. Now, we've talked about the fact that it was overpriced, but it also looked like a classic Jaguar, and Jaguar, after the failure of the S-Type, decided to take the look a whole new direction. So I don't know what Jaguar is now, because the design doesn't say Jaguar, the technology doesn't say Jaguar, right? They don't do a great inline six, which they were famous for once upon a time. No. And I don't know that the interiors are old, woody, clubby like Jaguars used to be. They're nice, but I don't think it's the same thing. If you got into an XJ6 from the 80s, for example, there was more wood in there than there was in the redwood forest. And, and that's just not the case anymore. And I think that this is a brand with a legacy problem and absolutely no brand identity that anyone can latch onto now.
Yeah. And to a similar extent, I think Cadillac was able to make that pivot in the very early 2000s. I think that's when they sort of did it most successfully with the implementation of that art and science design language, that very angular look. They were able to kind of shed a lot of that padded vinyl top, velour interior attitude of their past, and for whatever reason, Jaguar doesn't seem to have been able to make that transition the same way.
No, it's kind of a bummer because the legacy of Jaguar is awesome. It's probably one of the more beloved classic brands, I think. And the old sports cars are truly marvelous vehicles. They're beautiful to look at. People who have driven them love them, and they love the legacy of that straight six engine. A guy at our office, Jack, still has an XJ6 that he loves.
Oh, E-Type.
Not an XJ6, I'm sorry.
E-Type.
E-Type, thank you.
E-Type, yeah. We'll see, though. I mean, maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised, because they, along with this shift to EVs, there is going to be, I think part of the reason they canceled this impending XJ is that it wasn't in step with the design language they were going to be using from 2025 forward. So it seems like a kind of go for broke effort here, and maybe this new batch of EVs they do are breathtaking and redefine the brand successfully and revive everything moving forward. Well, I guess we'll know in the next couple of years here.
I guess we'll know by 2025, won't we?
Yeah. Hopefully 2024. Maybe we'll see a little bit before then.
Yeah, fingers crossed. All right. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we talk to Sergeant Mason of the Chicago Police Department. Stick around. Hey, it's Tom. Did you know that with Electrify America's vast electric vehicle charging network, you can now drive your EV from coast to coast? And with their ultra-fast charging stations, you'll get back on the road even faster. With more than 650 convenient locations nationwide, just pick your destination and hit the road. Visit electrifyamerica.com and see how Electrify America is bringing freedom to EV drivers. That's electrifyamerica.com.
Welcome back to the Consumer Guide Car Stuff Podcast.
All right, we're back. This is the Consumer Guide Car Stuff Podcast, and I am Tom Appel, publisher of Consumer Guide Automotive, and I'm darn glad you decided to hang around with us today. Hey, this is the part of the show, and I strongly recommend you follow me on Twitter. I am Car Guy Tom. That is car_guy_Tom on Twitter. I promise to be entertaining. All right, our guest today is a supervisor with the Chicago Police Detective Bureau. He's a 27-year veteran of the force with degrees in history and public policy. Welcome back to the Car Stuff Podcast, Sergeant Thomas Mason.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for joining us again. Thanks for making time.
You're very welcome. I'm happy to be here.
Sergeant Mason, we were going to talk today a little bit about key cloning and what you call key programming. But first, I'd like you to just remind us what the Chicago Police Detectives Bureau does.
So the Detective Bureau is responsible in the city of Chicago and in most police departments. It might go by a different name, criminal investigations, detective division. We conduct the follow-up investigations to felonies. And I work normally with the robbery section and in the vehicular hijacking type of crime specifically for the last 4 years. Robbery is any time that you take something by force or by the threat of force. That's pretty straightforward. And carjacking is when the thing that they take is your car from your immediate possession. That doesn't necessarily mean driving, although it usually does. It could be while you're getting gas, standing outside your car, unloading your car, loading your car. All right, so it's basically a version of robbery.
Understood. And when last we talked, there was a big uptick in carjackings. Is that still the case?
Unfortunately, it is. The uptick is occurring across all the metrics we use. So we're up on our year-to-year comparison by just under 40%, and our 2-year change we're up about 199%, and our 3-year change 122%, and our 4-year change is almost 100% increase. The numbers get so big, the percentages get so big, it's very hard to rationalize that. Yeah. But we had a huge increase last year, and now our increase this year is exponentially bigger than the previous year. Over the last 20 years, we had gotten ourselves down to where it was around 300 a year for about 4 or 5 years, from around 2003 through 2008. And then we've slowly seen various upticks. We dedicated in what was called Area North, which was the North 9 districts of the city. Now it's Area 3 with the unconsolidation. We saw a little bit of an uptick, and so 4 years ago we gave a team of a sergeant and 5 detectives dedicated, occasionally with patrolmen assigned as well, to just follow up on these carjackings, because like most crimes that are somewhat organized like this, you find that if one person has done one, he's done 10. So if you can investigate and charge somebody in one crime, you probably are going to stop them from doing 5 or 10 or 15 more down the line. That doesn't mean people get charged with 5 or 10 or 15. Right. But that's the way to approach it. You see commonalities and you're like, this guy probably did this one, but I can't prove it. Or the video's not that good. Or more importantly, the victim can't identify him and we can't identify him. But you eventually get them where you see them in another crime. And then we see a dramatic stop in that particular area or that particular MO. MO is like a Latin term the police use. It means modus operandi. It just means the way you do your crime. Some people approach with a gun, some with a knife, some by themselves, some at a certain location or a time. So that's the way it was approached. Now there's a carjacking team in every detective area. That's 5 areas across the city. And there is a citywide team as well. They focus on trying to interdict these carjackers while they're in the stolen cars, and they use a couple of police helicopters, federal partners and resources. The Cook County Sheriff's Police have recently gotten very involved in it, and they provide a lot more help because cars don't stop when they get to the city of Chicago border, and so this kind of a problem bleeds into the suburbs and vice versa.
Sergeant, when we spoke earlier, you noted that there was an increase in what you call the bump style carjacking, which isn't always classified as a carjacking. What's that all about?
So that had been kind of popular in the summer of 2018, and it has recently resurfaced again as a problem. What happens is that someone will bump into you very violently while you're at a stop sign or a red light or waiting to make a right or left turn, for instance, and they will wave to you or motion to you or get out of their car and indicate, hey, let's look at damage, right? Pull over, it's an accident. And when you get out to look at it, these guys will take the act so far as to wave a piece of paper or hold something up where it looks like it's their insurance card and come on out. And while you're distracted, another guy from their car or even a trail car, sometimes it's 2 cars that come, will run into your open car and jump in and take off. Oh. All right. Now, was there any force used? Usually in this case, there wasn't. Was there a threat of force? There wasn't. So are we going to classify that as a carjacking, which is a vehicular hijacking? We're not. But the same detectives will use that as a basis to try to find and solve these carjackings that are robberies. When you get your car stolen that way, it really doesn't matter to you. You feel like you've been carjacked, all right? And you wouldn't be wrong to say it. Have you ever heard people say, like, my house got robbed last night? And you're like, oh, my God, what did the gunman look like? Oh, I wasn't home. Well, that's not a robbery. That's a burglary.
Yeah.
that really doesn't matter. But it doesn't necessarily reflect itself in the crime statistics, okay? So this year to date, we have just under 1,100 vehicular hijackings and aggravated vehicular hijackings. The number of motor vehicle thefts is, I think it's about 6 times as much. I think we have around 6,000 motor vehicle thefts. Some percentage of that, and I couldn't even tell you because we don't break the numbers down that way, are thefts of running cars. And, we haven't really drilled down yet into, is it the theft of a running car that you left while you walked in the 7-Eleven and you decided to keep the air on? Or you were running the car in the morning to warm it up and someone just stole your car? Or is it the bump and run type thing? At the end of the day, the robbery detectives who investigate vehicular hijackings will still take that into account and try to figure out how to solve those. But those are the same thing, by thing I mean the same problem that we encounter, which is lack of identification from the victims, which is a very important point in robbery. You don't always have witnesses, and you almost always do not have good video showing people's faces. So you really rely on the victims to be able to say and confirm, that's the guy. So when the police later stop someone in a stolen car and we're like, it looks like he's wearing the same clothing that was described by the victim or by the victim's, side passenger or whatever. If they can't pick them out, though, in a photo lineup, it's very difficult in Cook County to charge them with that robbery. You guys follow? Mm-hmm. And so when someone is when someone is now completely taken out to a whole different element of, they drive into you at 10 miles an hour, which when you're stopped is pretty hard, right? Ram your car, go, hey, let's get out, and they're rubbing their neck or they're waving their insurance card, what you think is a piece of paper. You're completely distracted. And guess what? You're looking at the guy who's not stealing your car, right? The other guy, he's out in a following car or he's in the back seat of this car. He runs around the corner and gets in your car and drives off. The other guy, is he part of it? Yeah. Is it like a conspiracy? Maybe. Is it provable? It's super difficult to prove. And now you don't even know who that guy is who took that car. So now later when the police, let's say, stop that stolen car, because the license plate comes back as stolen and we see it, it's who is this guy? I don't know. I never even saw that guy. I was focused on the guy who rammed into me, right? And that guy then hopped back in his car and drove away. What more likely than not, the minute that you turn around and see your car going? What's the instinctual reaction of every single person, even off-duty cops? Someone jumps in your car and starts driving away, you start running after it for a second, right? Take your eyes off the person that you were talking to. Now, we can't identify that guy. You know what I mean? It's all like a blur. I don't remember what he looks like, and now that guy's gone too. So it's a very scary thing. And it gets back into the whole thing that we said the last time about when you're confronted in a robbery situation in your car. You really don't want to get out of your car, okay, if you don't have to. By the same token, though, when you get rammed like that and you pull over, if they can't get you out in what we would call a ruse, like trickery,
right?
They may then go to the next thing where they try to open your door or they produce a handgun, you know what I mean, and order you out of the car. So when you're rammed, when it seems weird. I wouldn't necessarily pull over right away. I might keep on driving for a little bit. The worst thing you can do, some people think, the worst thing you can do is not immediately pull over and exchange information. But in today's environment, I'm not saying floor it and take off, but lock your doors, look in your rearview mirror, keep moving, move over to the side, and just assess the situation. If there's multiple people outside of the car, that's a pretty good indication you're probably going to get robbed, right? When someone gets in a car accident, everybody doesn't bail out of the car and stand out there. And it's really unfortunate. I don't know how else to say it except situational awareness is the number one thing you have to have. It will not happen most likely on the expressway. It'll happen in somewhat of a secluded area. And then you have to think about your date, time, and location of where it happens. Is it going to happen on a very busy street in rush hour? like at the intersection, like here on the north side, like of Fullerton, Damon, and Elston? Probably not. There's too many people driving by, too many people to see. But if you're like on a side street somewhere, right? If you're on like Webster, okay, which is like a small street, we've had a lot of them happen over there. You're more likely to see that.
Yeah. Well, we've been covering some of the more old school methods of swiping cars, but we also wanted to ask you about. We've been hearing more and more in the automotive media about more sophisticated ways of stealing cars, like key cloning and wireless signal boosters and transmitters and things like that. Are you seeing that kind of stuff happen in Chicago? And what can you tell us about what you've witnessed of the new kind of higher tech methods of car stealing?
So the first thing I would like to say is we speak to our federal partners who are a little bit more technologically savvy for us. That's the FBI. They handle that kind of like research into and like broader scope, 30,000 view picture of the scene of technology. So I can say that like the signal booster thing, no one is able to ever point to a case in my conversations with the guys at the FBI. No one's ever point to a case where they did that. So a few years ago, the thought was you needed to put your key fob that can start your car when it gets within like a certain number of feet. You need to like wrap it in aluminum foil or keep it in a coffee can. Right. So that the signal cannot be picked up by these boosters, because the thought was you could drive down the street, your booster would pick it up, relay that signal, and even though you're like 300 feet away, it could start the car. Now, I guarantee you that like our intelligence services probably have the capability to do something like that, okay? The average person is not doing it. What the average guy is doing, and this is the average criminal, is they're using these devices called key tool reprogrammers, which are sold to licensed locksmiths and automobile dealerships to reprogram keys and reprogram key fobs. Everyone loves key fobs. Key fobs, though, have kind of driven to a degree the reason for so many carjackings, because without the fob, you can't operate the car.
Right.
You used to be able to steal a car, rewire it, pull out the ignition with a screwdriver, and just turn it with a pliers. I've seen it hundreds of times over my career. Now you have to have that fob. Well, the internet is kind of caught up. You can go right onto Google, look on YouTube or any of these other sites that host videos, and there's tons of instructional videos how to do it. How do these devices work? They plug into something called the onboard diagnostic port. It's called the OBD. OBD, it's just an abbreviation. You'll see the use of the OBD as a regular person when you go to get your vehicle emissions in Illinois. They don't put the sensor in your tailpipe anymore.
Right.
They just plug in, and they just run the engine, and then it goes through and pulls the data from whatever time they have, right, to find out whether or not your engine is running properly, if it's too rich, too lean, whatever. Is it producing too much like particulate emission? That same port accesses the computer of the car, and there's very few cars, I think, made after like around 1990 that don't have like a computer, and there was some sort of like really bare bones computer, even if to run only like the braking systems from cars. And Tom, you probably know better than me, since the late 70s, right? The computers now, they're very sophisticated, right? They run every aspect of the car, and so they'll plug this device in, and they're able to program a fob for it or multiple fobs for it. But to get into it, they have to get into it. So one of the signs that you see is a broken out little window. And now we've come full circle to how I was trained as a police officer in the early 1990s, which is 1970s technology, was the broken vent window. You don't want to drive around the winter with like a broken window, so you break the little tiny window in the corner. There's no vent windows anymore, but sometimes in the back, I think it's called the C-pillar, all the way in the back, there'll be a little window. That'll be broken out. You reach around, you get into the car. Now you're able to plug this device in. When you plug that device in, you can then like reprogram the car, and you have your own fob. The phenomenon is seen mostly at dealerships. They go in there with these devices, and they just reprogram 5 cars, 10 cars, 20 cars. You know what I mean? And then like drive out with these cars. From as far away, we're seeing as far away as like Champaign, Decatur, obviously out in the western suburbs, the southern suburbs, into Indiana. The cars that we always see, and I don't know why, are Chrysler products, which is Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. They have like an offering of cars that happen to be popular with the people who want to steal these cars. They have like super powerful engines, the Hellcat engine, various Jeeps, and they want those cars, and they're very easy to reprogram. Now, their reprogrammers are out there that exist for every make of car today. And I was asking my friend at the FBI, like, why aren't they stealing Porsches? He's like, I don't know, but they're stealing Jeeps, they're stealing high-powered Chryslers. I don't know if there's like a Dodge Aspen that has a Hellcat engine, perhaps. They're doing that. The Durangos, the Chargers and Challengers, those are the cars that seem to be targeted. And the way the police know is you'll be driving next to it and you look at the license plate. It seems okay, but little windows broken out, a little bit of glass, is broken out. That's possibly like reprogrammed. There's really nothing you can do about it. I haven't seen anything like where you can like disable that onboard diagnostic port. But if you have that kind of a car, you should think twice about parking on the street, perhaps. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But so, like, in order to do this, they have to physically break into your car. So there's no, they can't just walk past your car, get a signal, and pop the door open with a fake key fob. They actually physically have to break a window.
Correct. I've asked 100 times about that, and it doesn't seem that anybody out in the wild, in the real world, has the ability to just, get that open. That, I think, is part of the... Now, I could be proven wrong. I'm sure there's, a unicorn out there where it's happened, but it started about 20 years ago, maybe 25 years ago, when they started to, have more and more remote openings for people's garages, and they had to go to the rolling memory thing, where you had to, do the dip switches to change it because people could come by, and there was only so many frequencies, and there was only so many, possible codes, and they were opening people's garage doors. Now it's much harder. I haven't seen it, and the suburbs haven't seen it, in terms of our, communication with the suburban guys and with the FBI who's helping to, quarterback, information sharing. No one's really seen where someone has, a, for want of a better word, a master key, right? And just can go by and, press the button and open these things.
It's funny how these things get blown out of proportion, though. And if you do a Google search on this right now, you'll read 100 articles about this, and all of them suggest that it's happening all over the place right now.
Well, if it's happening, it's not happening here in Cook County. The ones that we're seeing, unfortunately, are a couple of anecdotal stories of locksmiths being called out to a scene, hey, ABC locksmith, can you please come here? I've been locked out of my car. And a licensed locksmith will come out, ask for proof of ownership, the usual routine that's happened since we've had locks on cars. And then when they get there, they rob them at gunpoint and take all of their reprogrammers and all their blank fobs. Because, of course, they carry blank fobs just like they carry blank keys. Yeah. So now once they have the blank fobs and it's the correct model, then they seek out those kind of cars. So a lot of it could be happenstance. You get a locksmith, and he only had 5 fobs for Dodges, and he had 20 for Fords, and they don't want Fords. So they're only going to be able to go and get 5 more cars.
Sergeant Mason, we have again completely run out of time.
Okay.
Are you again? Before you had directed us to the Chicago Police Vehicular Hijacking Task Force page. If you like, we'll go ahead and link to that again. Please do. Yeah.
The superintendent is in the process of announcing that I think they're going to expand that unit with more officers. I don't know about more detectives. It's still in the early stages. That the citywide team is led, of course, by Lieutenant John Felino, and we're going to find out more about that soon because the problem seems to be increasingly growing. And as you know, it's just as a final thought. They don't just steal these cars and resell them, although we occasionally see that with the new cars at dealerships. They steal these cars just to use them, and more often than not, use them in other crimes, and that's very unfortunate. And that includes gang-related drive-by shootings, obviously homicides and murders, other robberies, burglaries, thefts. Okay?
All right. Sergeant Mason, thank you for your time.
You're very welcome. I appreciate it.
All right, that was Sergeant Thomas Mason with the Chicago Police Detectives Bureau. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, it's quiz time. Stick around.
Welcome back to the Consumer Guide Car Stuff Podcast.
All right, we're back. This is the Consumer Guide Car Stuff Podcast, and I am Tom Appel. Hey, thanks for sticking around. Jill, how can people best keep track of your social media activity?
Well, I've tried to keep it simple, and so you can find me on all social media, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, at Jill Ciminello. So just my name, JillCiminillo. Or you can follow the hashtag Car du Jour.
That is simple. Hey, Damon. You started posting again on Foursquare. What's the deal?
I was posting pictures of my terry cloth headband and wristband collection.
Oh, nice.
No, I'm just joking. I was not doing that.
Oh.
I'm not on Foursquare, but I am on Twitter at Damon Bell Likes Cars.
Cool. Hey, Damon,
I posted a picture of a Saab, a real unicorn, a last generation Saab 9.5 recently. So if you want to see what be reminded of what those look like or see one for the first time, you can look at my Twitter.
a thing that we all remember fondly is the Saab lacrosse.
That's right.
Damon, you had an interesting point to make about the key fob theft.
Yeah, super quick. Apropos to our conversation with Sergeant Mason, earlier this month, Dodge had a press release about some of the new anti-theft security measures that they are taking with their vehicles, and one of them jumped out at me as being a particularly delicious bit of technology. There is a enhanced security valet mode that uses a 4-digit code that enables the owner to limit the engine power to less than 3 horsepower. As they say, preventing fast getaways, which I would love to see a thief get in some Challenger Hellcat, some 600 plus horsepower muscle car and be shocked that he's not able to exceed 3 miles per hour or whatever. And
limping away.
And then choose to ditch the car as a result. So
there's your TikTok video right there.
There you go. Yeah. Yep.
All right. Hey, you guys know what time it is, right?
Quiz time?
It's quiz time. I hope you guys are ready. Today's quiz topic is middle names. You guys are good memories.
Okay. When in doubt, say Mark.
All right. Well, keep that in mind. All right. Today's topic, as I mentioned, is middle names. Damon, the first question goes to you. Damon, what was Walter P. Chrysler's middle name? Walter P. Chrysler, the founder of Chrysler. Was it Parker, Pavlov, Percy, or Poultice?
Poultice. Oh, God. I know it wasn't Poultice. I'm going to say Percy. The P in Walter P. Chrysler is Percy. Yeah.
Jill, this question goes to you. Walter P. Chrysler, kind of a big deal in the auto industry. Parker, Pavlov, Percy, or Poultice? What was his middle name?
Mark? No. I'm like, Mark? No. I'm gonna agree with Damon and say Percy.
Well, you're both correct, and you're both on the board. The score is 1-1. I knew you guys were going to have an easy time with this. Jill, what was John Z. DeLorean's middle name? John Z. DeLorean, the famous General Motors employee who jumped ship and started his own company and then went to jail. Kind of a fun story. Was it Zachary, Xander, Zane, or Zechariah? John Z. DeLorean, middle name.
Wow, that one I do not know. Could you read through those again really quick?
I can. Zachary, Xander, Zane, Zechariah, or if you like, Mark.
Mark, no. I'm going to say Zane.
Damon, this question goes to you. Zachary, Xander, Zane, or Zechariah?
That's just fun to hear those words in close succession.
It is. I like reading it.
Say them over and over again.
I'm going to say Zachary.
Damon, you're in the lead now. It's 2-1. Next question goes to Damon. Damon, what was Ransom Old's middle name? And I have to pause here because Damon and I have an inside joke about Ransom Old. There's a guy in the industry who calls him Rancid Olds. But his real name
is not aware he's mispronouncing it, right?
No, I've heard him do it many times.
Right.
Ransom Olds' middle name, was it Anderson, Eli, Foster, or Martin?
Can you read those again?
Anderson, Eli, Foster, or Martin?
I'm going to say Eli.
All right. Jill, this question goes to you. Ransom Olds' middle name.
Because Martin sounds like Mark, I'm going to go with that.
All right. Damon has a
Because I have no idea.
3-1 lead. Joe, the best you can hope to do now is tie it up and then score on the bonus question.
Which she's done in the past.
That's true.
I have. But
right,
middle names are not my forte.
Well, this one's easy. Joe, what was Soshiro Honda's middle name? Was it Haruto,
so easy.
Rento, Sosuke, or does he not have a middle name? Did he not have a middle name?
What was the first one? Harusho?
Harusho, Rento, Sosuke, or no middle name?
I'm going to say Harusho.
All right. Damon, this question goes to you. Harusho, Rento, Sosuke, or no middle name?
Do Japanese people have middle names?
Well, that's an excellent question.
I think
My dad does not. Not Japanese.
Yeah. Oh, your dad doesn't have a middle name. Interesting.
Nope.
I think I've never heard a middle name for him, so I'm going to say he doesn't have one.
Damon, you're correct. You have a 4-1 lead. We're going on for fun now because Damon's already won. Damon, what was Lee Iacocca's middle name? Lee Iacocca, I think we all know that guy. Was it Anthony, Roberto, Lorenzo, or did he not have a middle name?
It was Anthony.
Jill, this question goes to you. Anthony, Roberto, Lorenzo, no middle name.
I mean, Damon sounds so confident that it was Anthony. I feel like I should say Anthony.
Super sure.
But then I feel like I would just be cheating because I would just be saying Anthony because he said Anthony.
Well, that's where we go back and forth on who goes first.
I know. I'm not going to win anyway, so I'll go with Anthony.
You're both correct. Damon wins this one 5-2. Iacocca's full name was Lido Anthony Iacocca.
Yep.
All right. Jill, you get the bonus question first. I think this one's easy. Headquartered in Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin, Coops has been making mustard and related products for more than a century. Jill, which of the following is not a currently available Coops product? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Horseradish mustard, Dusseldorf-style mustard, jalapeno mustard, or Roquefort mustard. One of those is fake.
Man, I want jalapeno mustard. Dusseldorf.
Dusseldorf, you're calling that the fake?
Yeah.
All right. Damon, horseradish, Dusseldorf, jalapeno, or Roquefort. Which is the fake mustard?
I'm going to guess jalapeno is the fake.
All right. So, Jill, you said Dusseldorf. Damon, you said jalapeno. You're both wrong. There is no Roquefort mustard.
Roquefort.
You guys don't know about mustard.
I'm glad there's jalapeno mustard. I now want that.
So, just in a nutshell, you guys, Damon knows an awful lot about middle names. Neither of you know squat about mustard. Damon.
Yes.
Well, that's a pretty blanket statement based on not knowing that there's a particular kind of mustard from one brand.
That's all I've got to work with.
All right.
I used to work at market research, but I didn't say I was good at it.
You got to make those sweeping generalizations in market research? Okay.
Based on very limited data. Speaking of limited data, Damon, what's going on at the CG Daily Drive blog this week?
We have mega data always on our blog. Yeah. We got another good week of content, including a test drive of the all-new minivan that Kia does not want you to call a minivan. That's the 2022 Kia Carnival. And we have the SX Prestige version, which is the fully decked out model that has Lazy Boy-style reclining second row seats that a lot of people don't seem to kind of think are a gimmick, but it's still quite a feature, I guess. What did you guys think of this? Jill, did you have a chance to drive a Carnival?
No, I have it coming up, so I
Okay.
haven't driven it yet. I'm very much looking forward to it. But what I want to say is the new trend is to have a vehicle that's actually not called the vehicle, because you've got the not minivan, and then you have the not pickup truck from Hyundai with the Santa Cruz.
Yes, with the Santa Cruz. Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe Kia's term for the Carnival is MPV, for multi-purpose vehicle. And they've styled it in such a way to give it a slightly longer, more SUV-esque nose, but it has sliding doors. The overall proportions are minivan, and every review outlet I've seen is calling it a minivan.
Here's the deal with that vehicle. Oh, I'm sorry, Joe. I was just going to say that here's the thing with that vehicle. If you're tired of looking at minivans that all look the same, and by all the same, I mean, there are only a few minivans and they're all really high volume, this is a good way to go instead. It's a pretty nice vehicle.
Well, and so what I was going to say is, didn't Mazda have a minivan called the MPV once?
Yeah.
They did. That was a smaller van that predated the Mazda 5. Yep.
But multi-purpose vehicle instead of minivan. So, all right.
Yes. So we've got that. We've got an article on a V6 powered Genesis GV80. That's Genesis's midsize, new for 2021 midsize SUV. They've got the GV70 coming for 2020. Interesting new entry into the luxury SUV market. And then finally, we have to toot our own horn a little bit in that one of our blog posts, actually one of Tom's blog posts, and a couple of issues, couple articles in our sister publication, Collectible Automobile Magazine. We've had John Beal on as a guest many times. We've won Automotive Heritage Awards, 2021 Automotive Heritage Awards. Tom's article, this is a pretty juicy title, Learning to Drive Stick, a sordid tale of intrigue, deception, and personal triumph. That article got a that article got a bronze award in the competition, and then a couple collectible automobile articles won as well. So we'll include links to those on the page for this episode.
Had I not mentioned pornography and stolen beer, I wonder if I would have scored better.
Well, that might have been what limited you. Maybe it would have been a gold or a silver otherwise, but they didn't like the tawdry elements of it.
That could be. I don't know.
Well, so I have to say, you're lucky I was not your judge. I do judge for these awards, and I actually did not receive any entries from anybody that I knew. So then maybe they do that on purpose.
So I was lucky
I couldn't stack the deck.
That you didn't judge mine?
Maybe. I mean, driving stick, that is a very risque title there.
What else we got, Damon?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's the gist of it this week.
Well, that's cool. Well, guys, guess what we just did?
Oh, ran out of time again?
We did again, yeah, that's an hour. So special thanks to everyone who joined us today. Thanks to Sergeant Mason of the Chicago Police Department, who just notified us that he is now Lieutenant Mason, so congratulations to him. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Damon. Thanks to producer Lady B and the good folks here at WCPT AM 820 in Chicago. A big and special shout out to my friends Steve and Johnny. And I can't stress this enough, if you want to be added to the Car Stuff mailing list, and you absolutely do, drop us a line at carstuff@consumerguide.com. That is carstuff@consumerguide.com. All right. Let's talk more about cars again next week.